Why Netflix Keeps Ruining Book Adaptations. Part 1. Note for listeners. This video is designed to be listened to like a podcast. People used to believe that seeing their favorite book adapted on screen was the ultimate reward. It meant recognition. It meant respect. It meant the story mattered enough to become bigger than the page. But somewhere along the way, that promise broke. Because today, when Netflix announces a new book adaptation, the reaction is no longer excitement. It is hesitation, suspicion, sometimes quiet dread. Fans no longer ask, "How will this look on screen?" They ask something far more worrying. What are they going to change? And more importantly, what are they going to ruin? This isn't about nostalgia, and it isn't about fans being impossible to please. It's about a pattern that keeps repeating itself across genres, audiences, and franchises. Fantasy, young adult, science fiction, even grounded dramas. Different books, different writers, different worlds, and yet, the same disappointment. In this video, we are not here to complain. We are here to understand. Because once you step back, once you look at the bigger picture, something becomes very clear. Netflix does not fail at adaptations by accident. It fails by design. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why so many Netflix adaptations feel hollow, why they struggle to last beyond 1 or 2 seasons, why audiences slowly stop caring, and why shows like Lockwood Co. didn't fail because they were bad, but because they were never allowed to be what they truly were. To understand how this happened, we need to go back to the moment when book adaptations felt special, when they felt rare, when studios were careful, and when stories were treated as something fragile, something that needed patience. Books were never meant to be consumed quickly. They are slow by nature. They live inside thoughts, atmosphere, and silence. They build tension not through spectacle, but through accumulation, through details, through time. When adaptations worked in the past, it was because studios respected that. They understood that you cannot rush attachment. You cannot compress emotional growth without consequences, and you cannot replace character depth with visual shortcuts. But Netflix was built on something very different: speed, volume, and immediate engagement. Netflix doesn't ask, "Will this story age well?" It asks, "Will this keep people watching right now?" And that single difference changes everything. Because when your priority is retention graphs instead of narrative arcs, stories stop breathing. They become optimized, simplified, smoothed out. Complex characters turn into recognizable archetypes. Slow tension becomes fast pacing. Quiet moments disappear. Ambiguity is treated like a flaw. And for viewers who loved these stories in book form, something feels off. They might not always be able to explain it, but they feel it. They finish an episode and think, "That was fine, not amazing, not unforgettable, just fine." And fine is the most dangerous word an adaptation can earn. Because fine does not create loyalty, it does not create obsession, and it does not survive algorithm-driven platforms. Netflix adaptations don't usually fail loudly. They fade, they lose discussion, they lose urgency, they lose emotional weight, until one day, a cancellation announcement appears, and everyone acts surprised. But the truth is, the warning signs were always there. To understand why this keeps happening, we need to look at how Netflix actually approaches adaptations. Not what they say publicly, but how their system quietly reshapes every story it touches. And once you see that system clearly, you will never look at a Netflix adaptation the same way again. End of part 1. Part 2. How Netflix actually adapts stories. When you watch a Netflix adaptation, you might notice something almost invisible. Not a mistake, not an obvious shortcut, something much subtler. It's a feeling that the story isn't breathing the way it did in the book. The characters exist, the plot exists, the visuals exist, but the story itself feels smaller. This happens because Netflix approaches adaptations very differently than traditional studios. Traditional adaptations cared about the story first. Writers would consult the original author. Scripts would be reviewed multiple times. Scenes would be tested for pacing, atmosphere, and fidelity. Netflix, however, prioritizes retention over fidelity. Let me explain what that means. Netflix measures success in very specific ways. 1. Click-through, how many people start the video. 2. Watch duration, how long they watch before leaving. 3. Next episode probability, will they continue watching immediately? The story comes second, The algorithm comes first. So, what does that do to adaptations? Complex backstories get trimmed, minor characters disappear, subplots vanish, emotional beats are shortened or removed entirely. In other words, Netflix simplifies stories to fit their data-driven model, and it's not always obvious. Take a slow-burn subplot in a fantasy book. It builds tension over 3 chapters. Netflix might compress that tension into a single scene. The effect: people don't feel the suspense. The payoff feels cheap. Another example is character arcs. A character who grows over multiple episodes may suddenly feel flat. Why? Because the algorithm favors constant engagement over natural progression. Moments of reflection are cut. Quiet, emotional scenes are skipped. Fast pacing replaces nuance. And this isn't random. It's systematic. Netflix also loves modernizing. They often update settings, dialogue, or motivations to feel relevant. But relevance is measured by trends, not narrative integrity. The magic in a book may be replaced with CGI spectacle. Character flaws may be softened to appeal to broader audiences. Darker themes are toned down. Fans notice, even if subconsciously. They feel the story was watered down. Another problem: writers' rooms and multiple script revisions. Netflix frequently uses a room of 3, 6 writers, many of whom haven't read the original book. The goal isn't to adapt faithfully. It's to hit pacing metrics and retention stats. Scenes that might resonate emotionally are replaced with visual cues. Dialogue is simplified for clarity. Moments that challenge the audience are removed. And the final layer: episode length and format constraints. Some books are naturally long and complex. Netflix compresses them into 8, 10 episodes per season. Even a 400-page book becomes 8 one-hour episodes. Every episode has to hook the viewer immediately. Every slow moment is at risk. The result: even good source material feels rushed. This is why fans often react the same way: disappointment. They love the book's depth, complexity, and pacing. Netflix delivers a show optimized for algorithmic success, not storytelling success. And this explains why fine adaptations feel familiar but unremarkable. They hit every data metric, but they lack heart. Next, we'll look at examples across multiple franchises to see these patterns clearly. From Shadow and Bone to The Witcher, we'll dissect exactly where Netflix's methods break the magic. End of Part 2. Part 3. Repeating failures across shows. Netflix adaptations often fail in ways that feel eerily familiar. It doesn't matter the genre. It doesn't matter the author. It doesn't matter if the book is a beloved classic or a trending young adult series. The mistakes repeat. Let's look at some examples. Shadow and Bone. Fans loved the Grisha trilogy for its intricate world, moral ambiguity, and complex relationships. Netflix delivered a visually stunning show, but many details were missing. Characters' motivations were simplified. Subplots were condensed or removed entirely. Some beloved characters were combined or omitted. The world was still magical, but it felt smaller. The Witcher. And then there's The Witcher, a franchise built on long, interwoven narratives. Netflix changed timelines. Scenes were reordered. The depth of Geralt, Yennefer, and Ciri was often lost in the shuffle. The result: casual viewers enjoyed the spectacle. Fans of the books felt frustrated. Percy Jackson. The original books are witty, clever, and full of heart. Netflix aimed to modernize the story. Some jokes were removed or altered. Mythology details were simplified. The pacing was uneven. The essence of the series survived, but the nuances fans loved were gone. Eragon, Fate, Winx, and others. Each adaptation followed the same formula: trim complexity, optimize for immediate engagement, ignore slow, reflective moments. It's the Netflix signature, and it's important to notice why this happens. Netflix has access to massive data on viewers. What keeps them watching? What causes drop-offs? What scenes trigger binge behavior? These metrics guide every decision. The problem is, algorithms don't measure story depth. They measure attention span. They measure clicks. They measure minutes watched. So what repeats across shows? 1. Flattened characters. Depth sacrificed for clarity. Complex arcs shortened. 2. Simplified plots. Multiple storylines merged or cut. Subtlety replaced with spectacle. 3. Pacing errors. Important emotional beats rushed. Action inserted to retain attention. 4. Modernization at odds with source. Dialogue updated unnaturally. Themes toned down to appeal to broader audiences. 5. Fan frustration ignored. Changes prioritized for retention, not authenticity. And it's not limited to fantasy. Even dramas and sci-fi series see the same problems. Character complexity lost. Slow building tension removed. Original tone compromised. Why does this matter? Because adaptation is not just copying a story. It's translating one medium to another. And when the translation is optimized for algorithms instead of humans, the magic disappears. Now, why does this keep happening? Because Netflix's system is data first, story second. No matter the team, no matter the budget, the same metrics dominate every adaptation. Retention, click-through, next episode probability. Fans care about story fidelity. Netflix cares about watch metrics. Metrics reward spectacle. Metrics punish slow moments. This is why a show can look beautiful, have great acting, and still feel empty. Viewers finish an episode and say, "That was visually amazing, but why didn't I feel anything?" And if that pattern repeats, engagement drops slowly, until one day, the show is canceled. Next, in Part 4, we'll dive into Lockwood Co. specifically. We'll see exactly how these systematic mistakes affected this series. We'll analyze which parts were lost, which were changed, and why fans felt so disappointed. By understanding this, we start to see a pattern that applies to nearly every adaptation Netflix makes. End of Part 3. Part 4. Lockwood Co., the perfect case study. Lockwood & Company is an excellent example of everything we've been discussing. A beloved book series filled with suspense, mystery, and rich characters. Netflix adapted it, and fans had mixed reactions. Let's break it down. Characters first. Lucy Carlisle is clever, brave, and full of nuance in the books. In Netflix's version, her personality is simplified. Some of her internal thoughts are externalized in awkward ways. Moments of doubt and vulnerability are often skipped. Anthony Lockwood is charismatic and witty. On screen, his charm is present, but subtle humor and leadership depth are condensed. Some emotional beats lose weight because episodes rush from one ghost case to the next. George Cubbins, the brains behind the team. His quirky intelligence is compressed. Complex problem-solving scenes are shortened. Plot changes. Netflix has a tendency to merge scenes for pacing, remove subplots deemed slow, emphasize action over atmosphere. For Lockwood Co., some ghost encounters are simplified. Suspense moments that take multiple chapters in the book are condensed into a single scene. Relationships between characters are less developed. Fans notice these changes immediately. It doesn't feel like the book. The tension is gone. Characters don't feel real anymore. And they're right. Pacing and retention. Netflix optimized the show to keep viewers watching, often at the expense of slow-building suspense. In the books, tension grows over several chapters. On screen, tension peaks quickly, then resolves, only to restart immediately. The result, the story is shorter, punchier, but loses its emotional weight. Modernization and tone. Netflix sometimes updates dialogue or visual style to appeal to a broader audience. Some lines are rewritten for humor or relatability. Certain darker or more subtle themes are softened. For fans, these changes are frustrating. The tone of the books is replaced with something more safe for TV. Why it matters. Lockwood Co. isn't a failure because Netflix tried. It's a failure because the adaptation couldn't capture the depth, the essence of suspense, character growth, and atmosphere was altered to fit the algorithm. Fans' reaction. Some are forgiving, enjoying the spectacle. Others feel betrayed. The community debates every choice Netflix made. Why skip that ghost encounter? Why remove this subplot? Why change Lucy's inner thoughts? And these discussions highlight the pattern we've seen in other adaptations. Key lessons from Lockwood Co. 1. Character depth matters. Don't flat, multi-dimensional personalities. 2. Suspense cannot be rushed. Shorter pacing loses the tension that makes the story gripping. 3. Respect source material. Fans notice and care. 4. Algorithm-driven editing has limits. Retention metrics can't replace story integrity. Conclusion for this part. Lockwood Co. shows clearly that Netflix's standard adaptation formula has both strengths and weaknesses. Strengths: visuals, immediate engagement, accessibility. Weaknesses: lost nuance, simplified characters, shortened suspense. For aspiring creators, or those studying adaptations, Lockwood Co. is a perfect example of what works visually, but fails narratively. Next, in Part 5, we'll examine why audiences gradually stop caring, how Netflix's formula pushes fans away, and why shows fade quietly instead of failing loudly. Part 5. Why audiences are quietly walking away. By now, you've probably noticed a pattern in Netflix adaptations. Good books, popular franchises, talented actors, and yet, viewers slowly stop watching. Why does this happen? The answer lies in audience behavior and algorithmic design. Netflix optimizes content for immediate engagement. The goal is to keep you watching right now. Slow building tension is a problem. Moments of reflection are skipped. The result: the story is constantly on. At first, this seems great. Episodes move quickly. Action keeps viewers hooked. Casual viewers are entertained. But over time, characters feel shallow. Subplots feel missing. Suspense becomes predictable, and the audience feels it subconsciously. I watched 3 episodes, but I don't care about the characters anymore. Another factor is episode binging. Netflix encourages viewers to watch back-to-back. Autoplay features pull you from one episode to the next. Cliffhangers create urgency. Yet this comes at a cost. Emotional investment drops. Viewers never have time to process story beats. Moments that would make the story memorable are skipped. Fans notice changes compared to the books. Plot points are missing. Relationships aren't fully developed. Themes are diluted. At first, they try to adapt. They defend choices online. They debate with friends. But slowly, engagement fades. Discussion stops. Fan content slows. And when the season ends, the buzz dies. Netflix measures retention and watch time, not story satisfaction. Retention graphs show numbers rising or dropping. Watch time increases initially, but emotional depth is invisible to metrics. So when fans quit quietly, Netflix may not notice. The show isn't failing loudly. It's fading slowly, and the system interprets early engagement as success. Meanwhile, long-term loyalty is gone. This explains why shows like Lockwood Co. or Shadow and Bone can be popular, yet leave fans frustrated. They get clicks, they get hours watched, but the story doesn't stick. It's a subtle, slow decline, and it's predictable. Every adaptation follows the same cycle. Initial hype, right arrow, algorithm-driven success, right arrow, gradual disengagement, right arrow, quiet cancellation. Fans eventually move on, sometimes to other platforms, sometimes to fan fiction, sometimes to the next book series. Netflix has tried to fix this problem in small ways. More experienced showrunners, author involvement, marketing tweaks, but the core system remains the same. Data first, story second. Until that changes, audience fatigue will continue to grow. In the next section, Part 6, we'll explore whether Netflix can actually improve, and what it would take to adapt books successfully while keeping fans engaged. We'll look at lessons learned, best practices, and a possible roadmap for better adaptations. Part 6. Can Netflix be fixed? Final thoughts. So, after everything we've discussed, the question remains: can Netflix actually improve? Can it create adaptations that satisfy fans and perform well in the algorithm-driven world? The answer is yes, but it requires serious changes. Not small tweaks, not minor adjustments, big shifts. Lesson 1. Respect the source material. Fans notice every change, every subplot removed, every character simplified, every tone shifted. It matters. Adaptations should preserve the heart of the story while making it visually compelling. Lesson 2. Pacing matters. Not every scene needs to be fast. Suspense, tension, and reflection are essential. Giving viewers time to connect with characters keeps them engaged long-term. Lesson 3. Involve the right creatives. Writers who understand the book. Directors who can translate tone and mood. Producers who prioritize story over retention metrics. Netflix has some of these in place, but it's not consistent. Lesson 4. Algorithms should support, not control. Metrics are useful for marketing and distribution. They should not dictate story decisions. Human judgment, not only data, should guide adaptation choices. Imagine a world where Netflix adapted Lockwood Co. faithfully. Every ghost encounter paced for suspense, characters fully realized, subplots intact, themes and tone preserved. Would it still be fast-paced? Sure. Would it retain viewers? Definitely. But now, fans would love it, not just tolerate it. Discussion, engagement, and loyalty would soar. Final thought. Netflix has the tools, the talent, and the reach to make great adaptations. The problem isn't ambition. The problem isn't budget. The problem is priorities. Until story comes first, and algorithm comes second, audience fatigue will continue. Shows will fade quietly. Fans will be frustrated. But change is possible. And when it happens, we could finally see adaptations that are faithful, exciting, emotionally resonant, loved by both casual viewers and devoted fans. So next time a new Netflix adaptation is announced, remember, it's not just a question of visuals or hype. It's about respect. It's about pacing. It's about letting stories breathe. And maybe, just maybe, we'll see a day when adaptations feel like they were meant to be, not just optimized for retention. Thank you for listening. This audio essay was designed to be experienced like a podcast. We've explored patterns, failures, and lessons, and we've seen how adaptations like Lockwood Co. highlight both the potential and the pitfalls of Netflix storytelling. Thank you so much for listening with us. We'll be releasing more episodes in this podcast format periodically, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Netflix adaptations and the stories they sometimes fail to deliver. If you have your own thoughts, leave them in the comments. Or if you have examples of books that Netflix ruined, share them too. We'd love to hear your opinions. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.